it make sense? Oh, I would ask the question now.
You'll have to do an abrupt cut.
Nicole Lynn Lewis, businesswoman, educator, mother, and visionary. Nicole Lynn Lewis is the Chief Executive Officer of Generation Hope, a nonprofit surrounding motivated student parents and their children with the mentors, emotional support, and financial resources that they need to thrive in both college and in kindergarten. In 2025, 1 in 5 college students is a parent. An estimated 52% of undergraduate student parents leave school without a degree within 6 years. For Lewis, this isn't just a scary statistic. It's personal.
I got pregnant my senior year of high school, and I was a strong student academically. I was very involved in all sorts of extracurricular activities, and I discovered my pregnancy just at the same time as I was receiving acceptance letters back from different colleges that I had applied to. So I had a positive pregnancy test on one side of my desk, and I also had a stack of acceptance letters to college, and I really didn't know how those two things could coexist.
Lewis made it her mission to ensure that every student parent has a clear and supportive pathway to reaching their academic goals. By advocating for student parents on Capitol Hill, mobilizing college leaders to break down barriers to student parent success, and collaborating with programs and organizations like ACCT's Kids on Campus project, momentum is building toward a more equitable student experience. This is In the Know with ACCT, the voice of community college leaders.
Hello, Nicole.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
I'm Miya Simpson, and I'm the director for Kids on Campus, a partnership between the Association of Community College Trustees and the National Head Start Association. And the partnership is designed to expand childcare options and quality early education for student parents on community college campuses. And so we're really excited. We're just beginning our second year of the project, and just very excited to be able to work in this space to support student parents. I was saying to you earlier as we were getting acquainted that I remember meeting you at an event where one of the associations in the city brought together people who were actually working in this space. And so it was nice to have an opportunity to talk with you. And I think I knew at that moment, I was like, okay, yeah, I have to talk with her. I definitely have to talk with her again. So I appreciate you taking time out today for us to get to know you and to get to know more about Generation Hope and the work that you're doing here to support parenting students.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I was excited to meet you too. We've been very excited about the initiative and the efforts, and any opportunity to connect with people who are expanding childcare options for parenting students. Like, we're excited about that. And so we're really thrilled about the work that you're doing and that you're leading.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. And just as a more formal introduction, I'll let you give us some more information based on some of the questions I have about your background. But I forgot to mention your title as the CEO and founder of Generation Hope. And so thank you, and thank you for allowing us to be in your space.
Thank you.
This is such a friendly and warm and inviting space to be in, so we really appreciate being here. As I mentioned, so we were at this dinner, and it was just great to see so many people in the room who are all focused on this work, and to see the conversation that has been elevated to the level that it has, because as I know you are well aware, this is a population of students that can be invisible on a campus, who don't always have the supports and resources that they need in order to help them to succeed. And the students is not necessarily about lack of ability, but really about resources that can help to facilitate their success on the campus. And so to see that many people in the room and interested in having the conversation, and to know that that work is being done in so many different places and areas, not only throughout this city, but nationally even. So just want to hear a little bit more about you and your background. Like, what brought you to this work? How did you become engaged?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the honor of leading an organization of which I've lived the mission of the organization. So, I was a teen mom. I got pregnant my senior year of high school, and I was a strong student academically. I was very involved in all sorts of extracurricular activities, and I discovered my pregnancy just at the same time as I was receiving acceptance letters back from different colleges that I had applied to. So I had a positive pregnancy test on one side of my desk, and I also had a stack of acceptance letters to college. And I really didn't know how those two things could coexist. How could I go to college as a young mom and also raise a child? And there wasn't an organization, a program, whether in my school or out in the community, that was working on helping mothers and parents and fathers go to college. That just didn't exist. And in fact, if a student got pregnant, usually they disappeared. You didn't see them, you didn't know what happened to them. You certainly didn't see them going off to college, and sometimes didn't see them graduating from high school. So I was in this situation where I knew how important my education was to be able to provide for this coming baby, but I didn't have any sort of path or support system to actually get to college, never mind get through college. And I was in a really tumultuous relationship with my boyfriend, and ended up leaving my parents' home. And so in the midst of all of this, I was trying to graduate from high school. I was experiencing housing insecurity, transportation insecurity. How do you even get to the doctor to get proper prenatal care? So much was going on in my life, and none of it said college. And in fact, when I found out I had been accepted to the College of William and Mary in Virginia and Hampton University, I was 8 months pregnant, living day to day in a Motel 6. So not at all the average incoming freshman that I think people were picturing on the other side of that acceptance letter. But I had, made it that far. And so I ended up starting at William and Mary when my daughter was a little under 3 months old. And I always tell people I stepped foot on campus and thought, these feet don't belong here. I don't look like the other students here. I was one of very few Black students. I was an anomaly as a parenting student. These other students were surrounded with resources and supports that I did not have. But I thought, let me put one foot in front of the other and see where it takes me. And so that's what I did. And I ended up graduating in 4 years. My daughter walked across the graduation stage with me. Awesome. It was this amazing, surreal moment. But it was, those 4 years were incredibly difficult. All of the things that we know parenting students are up against. How do you find affordable childcare? How do you keep a roof over your head? How do you afford tuition and all the other expenses that come with being a parent? All of those things, not having enough hours in the day to take care of your little one, work, and be able to go to school. But it was also transformative. I mean, going to college, getting my college degree changed everything for me and my daughter. And I moved up to the DC area, and I was looking for a nonprofit organization that was doing this work, helping teen parents become college graduates. And none existed in the DC area, very few across the country. And I just knew from my own experience, by now I was working in the private industry, doing PR for a major insurance company. I was working on my master's degree. So really my life was evidence of what happens when we invest in this population. And I knew that this was a missing piece as we're thinking about economic mobility for families. How do we ensure bright futures for children? All of the things that we care about, so much of it goes back to how are we creating opportunities for families, especially low-income families, families who are under-resourced. So I started Generation Hope in my basement, very humble beginnings. And it was really just based on that vision of, we should make sure that college is a reality for young families, and then has expanded and grown our work into parenting students of any age. Whether you're a teen mom or a teen dad or a grandmother who's going back to school and raising, grandchildren, how do we ensure that there is a viable path for those parents to earn a post-secondary credential that will unlock higher earnings for them? So it's personal work for me, it's heart work. And very much connected to my own journey.
That is awesome. What an amazing experience and journey that has landed you here. When you talk about your experience in college, did you feel like you had any source of any sense of a community there for you were there any particular supports that you remember
Yeah,
from that
I mean,
experience?
it really was like a patchwork that I had to weave together.
So you had to do
Yes,
most of the work
yes.
to find that community.
Exactly.
Those
So
communities
I would
for
say, my institution looked like many institutions at the time and many institutions today that really do not have support systems in place for this population. And so I was able to meet incredible people who became wonderful lifelong friends. I met girlfriends who would, if I had take an exam and the childcare was closed that day, they would watch my daughter while I went and took the exam. I had an incredible financial aid counselor who
wonderful.
became a champion for me and helped me leave an abusive relationship with my daughter's father, and made sure I had the resources to get out of that relationship, but also to continue in college. So it really was me pulling all of those resources together, as opposed to having supports that were really intentional and in place at the institution.
Great. Can you talk about some of the work that you're doing, you and your team are doing here within Generation Hope, and how you're building these types of supports on college campuses?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have really two arms of our work. The first arm is our programming that's been with us since our inception, and that's our Scholar program. And that program is a direct service program where we're supporting more than 200 teen moms and dads in college annually, and we are wrapping them with really intentional supports that are not just about academics. I always tell people, this population, they are incredibly smart, incredibly motivated. It's all the things that happen outside of the classroom that derail them from getting that degree. So, we're walking alongside them and really helping to remove barriers in their lives that are really deep-seated and long-standing in our systems. And we have incredible mentors that we match them with. And that work has been really a wonderful proof point for us as we launched our second arm of work, which is our systems change work. So we do the work directly with families, but we've taken what we've learned in that work, and we now have launched systems change work that really says, how do we change systems and transform systems, particularly higher education, to create family inclusive campuses everywhere. So even if you're not a Generation Hope Scholar, how can we help to create environments where you get the same type of supports, right? And that has led to our Family U work, which is our technical assistance program, and it allows us to partner with colleges and universities and organizations to really do just that, to create more family inclusive environments that really focus on 4 key components. And for us, that's policy, people, culture, and data. One of the most important things. And those core components really guide our work with our institutional partners. We have many programs under the Family U umbrella, but our signature program is our Family U cohorts, and that's a 2-year deep dive capacity building program. We've partnered with 21 colleges and universities across the country in our Family U cohorts, and it's all about really benchmarking where are they at with those core components as it relates to student parent work, and then helping them to stand up supports that we hope will last much longer than our engagement, that they become embedded in the institution and embedded in the way that the institution serves students. And we've reached about 150,000 student parents through our Family U cohorts today.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As I'm listening to you speak, you've said 2 things and 2 ways in which I see our work being connected, outside of just working and trying to support student parents. One is around a 2-generation approach. And so being focused on not only the success of the student parents, but also recognizing the importance of supporting the whole family. And creating early learning and education opportunities for children, because we know the impact that education and how life-changing education can be at so many levels. And within our work, the partnership with Head Start allows us to do that, because in addition to their early childhood education program, they also have a number of other comprehensive services that can be provided to support the full family. So when you first started your organization and you first got involved in this work, beyond knowing what you knew from your personal experiences, was that your approach? Or did it kind of evolve into that?
Yeah, so it definitely evolved. So much of our our work grew out of my own experience, right? And I knew when I was in college how difficult it was for me to access high quality childcare for my daughter. And it weighed heavily on me. You know, here I was going to this public Ivy League and you know, engaging in this incredible educational experience, and I felt every day how precarious the childcare was for my daughter, just because I could not afford it, right? And that is something that, you know, we know that under-resourced parents are dealing with and grappling with every day in this country, is that weight and that burden of like, wow, am I giving my child everything that they deserve to start strong? And so I knew early on in starting Generation Hope that we would always eventually add a component to our direct service work that was about early childhood education. And what was wonderful about kind of our approach of the organization, and continues to be, is that we really look to our families to tell us what they need. And we were hearing time and time again, I love the Scholar program, and I feel like I need more support as a parent.
Okay.
And so we started what we call our Next Generation Academy, which is an early childhood program. It's a home visiting model, and it really complements our Scholar program nicely. And it's all about making sure that that child is getting those early childhood supports. A piece of that support is helping them to identify high quality childcare and helping them access it through a stipend that they receive monthly. And so that has been kind of the way that we have addressed it on the direct service side. On the indirect service side, through Family U, we have worked really closely with our partner institutions and them figuring out what does it look like to have childcare solutions at their school. Is that a brick and mortar childcare center? Is it through the C Campus federal grant program? Is it through a partnership, you know, with Head Start? And really helping our schools figure it out. Every institution's different. Every community is different. The resources within that community are different. So really listening to our institutions about what are the needs and helping our institutions figure out, first, get the data to be able to understand your student parent population. It's really easy to say, well, we need a brick and mortar childcare center and it's going to be, you know, infants to 3-year-olds are going to be serviced there. When the reality is you might, you know, collect the data on your student parent population and find out they have little ones that are older than that. And so that's not going to be a solution for them. So really working closely with them to get to know their student parent population, think about the needs in their community and what is the perfect solution for that institution.
That's awesome.
But I will say, we're talking about Head Start. Head Start was a godsend for me my senior year at William & Mary, because I had just gotten to the place where I could no longer afford tuition at the child care center on campus. And my daughter just made the age eligibility to be able to transition into Head Start. So I went from paying $800 a month as an undergrad student to $35 a month and put her in the Head Start program. And that really was one of the reasons I was able to finish and get my degree at William & Mary. So I'm such a proponent of Head Start. I believe so strongly in the program. And I know that Narissa, my daughter, started strong when she then transitioned to her next school because she had such a great experience at the Head Start program in Williamsburg. So again, I was able to take that experience into launching Generation Hope to figure out how do we ensure that those kind of opportunities are a reality for more parents.
Wow. What a blessing to be able to have those things come together in such a timely fashion. So I'm glad that worked out for you. I remember the second thing that I was going to say is around sustainability. So you mentioned working with colleges to help them to understand and be able to continue providing services and resources beyond what the work that you may be doing with them or any funding that you receive. And so and that's similar to our model as well. It's really about providing people with the tools and resources. And so a lot of our initial work is around outreach and facilitating partnerships between community colleges and Head Start programs, helping them to identify each other, work through some of the nuances, because while it's a great idea, it can also be very complicated and very overwhelming. So providing that technical assistance. But at the end of our project, project, which is a 5-year project, our goal is to have resources available that can stand alone, stand on their own, and that anyone who wants to step in and utilize this as a model will be able to do that. Because it's important, because funding is not always going to be there. The supports, individual supports may not always be there. So I think that this models of helping people to understand how to sustain successful work is very important. And you mentioned the data piece as well. What has your experience been like in engaging colleges in helping them to better understand their data? Do you find most are very interested and excited to come on board? Is there some resistance to that? Do you have a particular model that you use in working with your colleges?
Yeah, so I think most people working in higher education, particularly administrators, want to understand their student body. So I do think that there is a desire to understand what students are experiencing. The how, I think, is where it can get challenging, because particularly in the last, we look at the last 5 years for higher ed, it's been an incredibly difficult 5 years. We've had a global pandemic. We've had the residuals of that, even though we've come out of that in many ways. The residuals are still here. We have, enrollment rates we're thinking about, we're persistence rates, and then we're also now, the climate now with all the different shifts that are happening from a policy standpoint with higher education. So it's the last 5 years, and that's when we launched Family U, and we literally launched it in 2021. And so I think it's also challenging sometimes to think of another thing that we have to do, right? Another survey we might have to administer, another questionnaire, a new process to stand up. And I understand that. And I think, we try to be incredibly sensitive to the fact that there are competing priorities, and it has been such a difficult time working in higher education. So I think the how is where we are really working hand in hand with colleges. And for us, a big thing is, let's get something started. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to, answer every question. But most schools have nothing started when it comes to data collection on parenting students. So just by getting something started, you are ahead of the game, right? And so if we can help schools to just stand up something, and that could be looking at the FAFSA data, that's not going to be comprehensive, but it is a start, right? So how can we look at that? Sometimes we are helping schools in their enrollment process ask a question as you're a new student coming in. Now, that's not going to capture 6 months later when you actually have a baby or you gain custody of your sibling, but it at least is a start. So for us, we try to be very sensitive to those things, and we also are thinking about, let's get something started, because once you start something, you start to collect some data, then people get curious. Well, at least 15% of our eligible students are parenting. What does that mean for the students who are already enrolled, right? So it gets the curiosity going and gets the conversation going. So I think that's a big thing for us. We don't have a one-size-fits-all approach. There's obviously some gold standards. There's approaches where schools have a pop-up that comes up when you register for classes every semester. And then it asks you if you're parenting and some other questions. That's a really great mechanism, because everybody has to register. And it's ongoing. It's an ongoing data collection point. It's not something that you ask one time when a student comes into the school. So that's a gold standard, but that's not going to work for every institution. We have some institutions who are really concerned about, is that going to deter a student from registering, right? And so we work with schools and meet them where they are. We're really about getting something up and running and then improving it over time. And so we're never going to say this is the way it has to be, but we do want you to start collecting the data, because usually when you do that, then people start to say, well, we've got to get even more data. Like, we need to figure this out, and we're missing some key, points where we could be asking the question. So we're really proud that every school that comes through Family U and through our cohort leaves with a data collection system up and running. And sometimes our institutions have found that 30% of their students are parenting, which is huge. And that's a huge blind spot had they not started collecting that data.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you've heard this in your conversations, but I've even heard colleges to say, well, we don't really have we
Yes.
don't really have any student parents, or we don't have
Yeah.
any student parents. And so this may not be the right project for us.
Yes,
And
I've heard
then-
it. And I'll be like, I went to William & Mary, and there's a lot of students, like, there are a lot of students that this is their story and their experience. And I think that goes to the invisibility of this population. And when you don't have the data, it's easy to say that.
Yes.
When you don't have the data, it's easy to say, oh, we're talking, 2 or 3
Just a few,
students.
yes.
It's like such a niche population.
Yeah.
But when you collect the data, then it's harder to say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you present it to them and you
Yes.
give them their own evidence.
Yes, exactly.
Then that's good. I had an opportunity to attend your conference.
Oh, good.
in
Yes, that's
April.
right. Yeah.
And it was such a great experience.
Oh, I'm glad to hear
And
that.
to be in a space, a professional conference space, and to see the families
Yes.
there together. That was probably a first time experience, or
Yeah.
definitely one of very few. I don't
Yeah.
know if I've ever had that before. But it was very nice to see mothers and fathers attending
Yeah.
with their young ones. And the panel that you had at the end, that was so powerful.
It was so powerful.
So you had a panel with your daughter,
Yes.
who is now an adult
Yes,
woman,
26.
26 years old, and then the other 2 parents with their younger children. I think
Yes.
the youngest was maybe in kindergarten.
Yeah, I think
or
so.
like she was about
yeah,
5.
she was. Yeah.
But that was so powerful.
It was,
And
yeah.
is that something that you do often in environment? Like, have your conferences always been set up that way to be inclusive and engaging for the entire family?
Yeah.
And then having those conversations with the parents and their children. Like,
Yeah.
is that something you do regularly in your?
That's a great question. First, thank you for coming. I always say that because I know conferences, again, competing priorities and lots of different opportunities. So we're thankful that you came. That's only our 2nd conference. So we've only been doing our conference for 2 years. We're working on our 3rd coming up in March 2026 in Dallas.
You would never know it.
Thank you. Well, that's
It's only the
good. We
second
want to
one.
fool you and make
Yeah.
you think we've been doing it for 20
For years.
But yes, we are very intentional throughout all of our programming about including student parent voice, including the voices of our families, normalizing families being in spaces, right? We're here in our office. There are diaper changing stations in our bathrooms. There's a high chair in our office kitchen, right? So we are very intentional across all of our programming about including families, making sure that they not only are in a space, but that they're really treated as experts in the space, right? And so when it came time to designing and planning our conference, that was a no-brainer for us. It was like, these students have to be in the room. We have to make sure that it's easier for them to be in the room. We have childcare on site for them. We want to help them with their transportation, because it's also a learning opportunity, to sit in a conference about student parents, to be talking about solutions for them, but to not be able to turn to a student parent and say, hey, does this resonate
Yes.
with you? Does this feel like the right approach? What do you think about this? What is your experience? That feels like we're missing something really big, right? And so for us, it's really a benefit to our attendees, and that you can literally have those conversations in real time. And then it's also a benefit to our student parents who come from all over the country, because they're really treated as experts. I mean, they leave that conference feeling ownership
Yes.
in their experience, and realizing, wow, my lived experience matters. I am a leader. I may not be treated as a leader in these other spaces, but I understand that I am a leader, right? And bringing that back into the environments that they're going into is really important for us, and we want them to feel that. So yeah, it's an extension of the way that we do the work across the organization, and it's really important for us that they have a big presence at our conference. The panel was so powerful. I mean, it made me think of, like, what was that show?
It's like, nobody told me to
Kids
bring
say
tissues.
the darndest thing. There were some answers that I was like, I could not have scripted that. And they were so adorable. And then, of course, I mean, the parents were crying. I'm crying.
I was on the
yes,
crying bus
people in
too.
the audience were crying, because it was also such an illustration of the generational impact of this work. My daughter is now 26. She graduated from Towson University. is now in the working world. I mean, that is such an example of what happens when we invest in young parents and in parenting students. And then to see we had Alicia, who's one of our alums, and Roslyn, who is now an alum, just graduated, just to be able to see them with their kids.
Yes.
I mean, that in and of itself was like powerful, but then to hear their dreams for the future, hear their wishes for all student parents, and to see the experience through the eyes of children, I think that's so amazing to
Yes.
to hear my daughter talk about what it was like to grow up the first 4 years of her life on a college campus, right? And to hear the little ones talking about like watching mommy do homework all the time. What did that mean for you? How did it make you think about your own education? Like, that was really amazing. So we've gotten so many people saying, let's do it every year.
It was very powerful.
Yeah, it was super powerful.
Yes.
I loved it.
And you mentioned your circle and your sister network and the people, and I remember your daughter mentioning that as well.
They're
She
her
recalled
aunties.
that
Yes.
she recalled that experience. Like, she just felt supported,
Totally
and
supported.
surrounded by people who were there for her.
Yeah.
And she needed it. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the greatest lessons that you've learned over the time that you've been doing this work that stand out for you?
I think, one thing when I started Generation Hope 15 years ago, which is crazy to say, people weren't talking about student parents. There wasn't a hashtag. There wasn't, I don't even think anyone was saying that phrase really when I started Generation Hope. And one thing that's been amazing is to now see, as you said at that dinner, how many people are aware of this population, how many people are doing some sort of version of this work or wanting to get it started. At the same time, there's not enough, right? Like we have made progress, but we really need to continue pushing for more transformation and for more change and for more awareness. There's still spaces I go into all the time where people don't know what student parent refers to. They don't know 1 in 5 undergrads is parenting, and these are people working in higher ed every day. Yeah. So we have a lot of work to do. So I think one is just the importance of the work is clear, and it really does make a difference, and we have so much more work to do. I would say too, another lesson that I've learned is that while the student parent movement has been moving along, there are marginalized populations within the student parent umbrella that are still not getting the visibility, the understanding, and the support that they deserve. So the teen parent population, for example, I have not seen as much progress in terms of how people understand that population, how they are championing for that population. It's still a very polarizing a conversation to talk about teen pregnancy and teen parenting. Student fathers is another population under the student parent umbrella that is not experiencing the same type of visibility and support and understanding, right? So I think, a lesson is that we have to not only champion this overall population, but we also have to champion the most marginalized folks within that group and make sure that they are understood, that they are being named and recognized as being a part of the student parent movement. I think is really important. And then the last thing I'll say, I think a big thing that we had to do early on at Generation Hope, because this population is so stigmatized, the teen parent population in particular, we had to figure out how do we talk about this work in a way that brings people together? And if teen pregnancy automatically causes a reaction in people, what is at the heart of the work? And for us, it's really family. It is family at the heart of the work. It's making sure that families have a chance at a bright future, making sure that children have every opportunity to succeed. And when we talk about that, it's really hard for people to say, no, I don't want to get behind that. And so I think as we continue and we weather the storms and different shifts and changes that are happening around us, staying focused on what is at the core of the work.
Yes.
And at the core of the work is families and championing families and making sure kids have every opportunity to succeed. That's what's going to bring people together. We've seen that, in our work over the past 15 years. I think that's what's going to continue to be important over the next 15 years. And it's going to be important to growing the movement, growing
Yes.
the number of people who are talking about student parents and doing the work. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you see what's on the horizon for Generation Hope? Like, what are your new plans, future projects that are underway that you can share information about?
Yes, absolutely. So we have 2 sites for our scholar program. We are in the DC metro area, so we serve DC, Maryland, and Virginia. That's our flagship. So that's where we began. And we 2 years ago launched our programming in New Orleans, which we're so excited about, and now are serving teen moms and dads in college there.
Awesome.
And we are about to open our new site in Dallas, Texas.
Oh,
and so
awesome.
very excited.
Congratulations.
Yeah, very excited about that. And I think we had over 40 students apply, for our first year, which is incredible. And so the community has been really thrilled and excited about us coming, and we're really excited about that. So we'll be now operating 3 sites, and as I said, serving over 200 teen moms and dads through those sites. And then we are about to welcome our 5th cohort of Family U institutions. So we'll bring the number of partnerships that we have to 25 colleges and universities across the country. So very excited about that. And of course, reaching more student parents through that new cohort. And then we're also launching a President Circle. One of the things that we have learned in doing the cohorts over the past several years is the importance of champions at the highest level within an institution. I mentioned, we talked a little bit about the challenges that sometimes come with the how of doing the work. And it's always helpful to have the person at the helm saying, this needs to get done.
Yes.
This is important. And so we've had the honor of working with some amazing college leaders and presidents and chancellors in the cohort experience. And now we're curating a special President Circle technical assistance program for a group of institutional leaders in California. We're going to pilot it in California.
Awesome.
And then take that pilot and expand it across the country. So we're excited about launching that. And then of course we'll be in Dallas for our Hope 2026 National Conference, March 25th through the 27th. And we're very excited about that. So hopefully we'll have another powerful, tear-jerking panel that you can attend. But very excited about all of it.
Oh, that's wonderful. You must have read my mind because when you talk about your President's Circle, because my next question to you was going to be, how have you engaged leadership on campuses?
Yeah.
Oftentimes when we approach certain projects, and I've worked on college campuses for years in various administrative roles, and also I'm a former TRIO director, which I wear proudly. So, but sometimes you start at the level of those that are on the ground doing the work, because those are the people who know what's going on. They're the ones who are going to move it forward. And so presidents, if they have to, they'll sign, in many cases sign off. But how do you really get the buy-in? How do you really engage people at the leadership level to connect them? And so that sounds like a wonderful idea. And then to put them in the room with their peers too.
Right. And I think too, so when a school applies to be a part of the Family U cohort, they have to have a letter of support from their president. But we also have one of our convenings it's an in-person convening throughout the cohort experience that's specifically designed for presidents. So all the presidents from the institutions come and we talk about, hey, here's what we've seen so far with your institution. Here's what's on the horizon. And it's really a wonderful opportunity because sometimes the chancellor, the president isn't aware, right, of a challenge that the team is running into. And it's an opportunity to say, hey, is there a way that we can fast track this? Or is there something we can do about this? But this is also an opportunity now with the President's Circle to build upon that, to take it even further and to say, how do we support presidents who want to actually be champions for this population, who really want to not only grease the wheels, but also be at the forefront and really talking about the importance of supporting student parents, including student parents, advocating for them. And that we're excited about because this is also about how do we grow this ecosystem, right? How do we grow the institutions that are learning from each other, connecting with each other, advocating, because then it's not just transforming one school,
Yes.
it's transforming all of higher education. So if we can have more college leaders being at the forefront of this work and talking about the importance of it, that's what's going to create that tidal wave. That's going to create
Yes.
that change that we want to see across the system.
Well, that is awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing.
you.
I didn't even get to my.
I told you it was going to be like a little conversation, you and I.
Here. But this has been very
Good.
just informative, but also just so engaging.
Good.
And just to hear your life story and how that work has really made a difference, not just for you and your family, but for so many other families and generations. And so thank you for the work
Thank you.
that you're doing.
Thank you, and thank
greatly
you for your work
appreciated.
and
Thank you.
for this opportunity. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much.